Straight ahead, convention bound. The message North Texas delegates to the Democratic National Convention want to hear from Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Plus, what Republican Congressman Roger Williams from North Texas says is key for former President Donald Trump and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. School choice battle, why Democrats and most Republicans are still far apart on taxpayer-funded education savings accounts. We'll ask Democratic State Representative Mihaela Plisa of Plano and Republican State Representative Brian Harrison of Waxahachie if a bill will pass next year. State fair fight. A controversial new policy at the state fair over guns ends up with the Texas Attorney General threatening legal action against the city of Dallas. Good morning, I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics starts now. Hope you're having a great weekend and welcome to Eye on Politics. Delegates from across North Texas and elsewhere are convention bound. They're gathering in Chicago for the start of the Democratic National Convention, which starts tomorrow. And here's what you can expect. Citing a source, CBS News reports President Biden and former First Lady and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will speak Monday night. Former President Barack Obama will speak Tuesday night, while on Wednesday night, former President Bill Clinton will address delegates before vice presidential nominee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. And on Thursday night, Vice President Kamala Harris will accept her party's nomination. The vice presidential candidates have agreed to a debate. Republican Ohio Senator J.D. Vance and Democratic Governor Tim Walz will square off October 1st on CBS News. Former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris will face off in their first debate September 10th. Another debate may be held in October. We are tracking the 6 battleground states you see here in dark gray, where the Real Clear Politics average of polls has tightened. In Arizona, former President Donald Trump is leading Vice President Harris by 0.8 percentage points. Trump's biggest lead comes in Nevada, where he's up by 3.5 percentage points. In Georgia, Trump is only up by 0.6 percentage points. Harris leads in Wisconsin by 1 percentage point. Her biggest gain over Trump is in Michigan, where she's up by 2.1 percentage points. And in Pennsylvania, it's as close to a tie as you can get, where Trump is up by 0.2 percentage points. We spoke with 4 delegates to the convention: Carmen Ayala, Kathy Neely, Tony Pham, and Jeff Strader, all from Dallas County. They told us the message they want to hear from Harris and Walz.
The message I want to hear is, bringing young people to the fold. And I mean, the base is already energized. And so I just want to know, the unity message, how we're going to defeat Donald Trump in November.
The message that I want to hear is about economic development. At the end of the day, it's all about bread and butter issues, right? So people are concerned about how is this affecting me in my everyday life? Many people are struggling, even though we hear that the economy is doing better. But I definitely want to see and hear a plan that addresses those particular issues.
I very much am very looking forward to hearing about the recommitments and especially from Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz regarding civil rights that we're facing right now and passing the Voting Rights Act.
I think, we've heard kind of a preview of what they're committing to in terms of the message of freedom and joy. And I think at the convention, we're going to hear the next step, what's going to lead us over the next, 70, 80 days. And there's a really great foundation that both Vice President Harris and Governor Walz have to build upon, with the great gains in, inflation reduction and creating jobs.
And I want to go back to what you, Jeff, just said a little bit, and what Kathy brought up before about, people are hurting out there. We've talked to people, you've talked to people, you go into a store, prices are high, insurance is high. And while inflation has gone down, prices really haven't gone down. And so how important is it that both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have an answer for that, have a plan for that? And Kathy, I want to give you another chance to elaborate on that.
Absolutely. I think that, number one, it's important for them to explain what their economic plan is and how it relates to all Americans.
Not only I have my full confidence that they will come out with a good policy and a good plan, but I also believe that what they can offer to the American people will be more superior than what Trump has to say.
Every week I go to the grocery store and I really do see that the prices are getting higher. But at the same time, you go to a local mall in Dallas and the retail stores are packed. So people have, it appears that people have money, people are spending, but our prices are insane. The prices really are a discussion that we really need to have with corporations and manufacturers.
I think it's very important that they come out with a good plan that will entice people, even like people who have never voted before, to come out and vote. And these are like basic necessities. So I think it's very important, and I hope they do come out with a plan that we can get behind and support.
The Trump-Vance campaign is renewing its focus on inflation, affordability, and border security. They continue to criticize Harris for not holding a news conference or doing a sit-down interview. We spoke with Republican North Texas Congressman Roger Williams, who chairs the Small Business Committee, about the presidential race.
They are energized because they, frankly, did a coup on their president and got Kamala Harris as their nominee, so they've got a little energy there. But you expect both parties to have energy. It's a presidential cycle. It's maybe the most important election of our lifetime. Two different visions on where we want to take our country. So, you know, the Democrats are going to have their bump. We've had ours, and I think we come out of Labor Day dead even. I mean, anybody that thinks it's going to be a landslide from one or the other is not correct. It's going to be very, very close.
So what message do you think the Trump-Vance ticket should be very focused on because this race is so close?
And President Trump did a great job 2016 to 2020. I think most people in business or even people retired would tell you it was the best they've had in many, many years, from their assets growing, their businesses growing. I've been in business 52 years and I've never saw it as good as it was from 2016 to 2020 because you went after Main Street, you helped Main Street, you cut taxes, you cut regulations, you had a supply chain, and those things all work. And so the message I think we need to put out is that very message that we believe in the private sector. We want to put more money in the hands of the private sector.
Former President Trump laid out his economic vision for the next 4 years. And he says he wants to cut taxes, cut regulations, and is saying, drill, baby, drill. Mm-hmm. How does that translate to lower costs for everyone and expanding the economy?
Well, it'll immediately create lower costs because when you take drill, baby, drill, we're going to sell one of our great assets, begin to sell our assets to the world again instead of buying from everybody else. We'll be a seller. We'll turn the energy sector loose. You got to cut taxes, Jack. When you cut taxes, you do several things. You create more taxpayers. You create more income for the federal government, which is out of control spending, but you do have more cash flow. People have more money in their pocket. And whether it be a big business, small business, or retired people, in America, when people have extra money, most of the time they spend it, they don't save it. It will allow businesses to expand.
Coming up, taxpayer-funded education savings accounts or school vouchers are back in the news at the state capitol, while Democrats and Republicans remain divided. And what state lawmakers are saying about a warning by the Texas Attorney General to the city of Dallas about a new gun-free zone policy at the State Fair of Texas, when Eye on Politics returns. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. Now the ongoing school choice battle. The controversial policy of taxpayer-funded education savings accounts, ESAs, or vouchers, returned to the Texas Capitol last week. The House Public Education Committee held hearings on this and other educational issues. We spoke with Republican State Representative Brian Harrison of Waxahachie and Democratic State Representative Mihaela Plisa of Plano about whether they believe ESAs will pass during the legislative session next year. First, we hear from Representative Plisa.
One thing that, continues to come up over and over again is our rural legislators, our rural members, who tend to be Republican members of the House. And they continuously bring up that these voucher scams do not do anything to promote their districts and their schools. One of my colleagues pointed out that he represents almost, I think, 19 counties. I might be mistaken, but it was somewhere around 19 counties. Not one private school in any of those counties. So when you're talking about taking public money, public taxpayer money, and moving it into a private commodity, that hurts rural Texans just as much as it hurts school districts like Plano ISD.
Do you think that the governor has the votes, or do you think he's bluffing?
Well, I don't think that the governor has the votes. I don't think that we'll know about what those votes look like until we're back on the House floor in the 89th legislative session. We don't even know what the bill looks like that we're talking about.
I asked the governor recently about whether he would support a clean bill independent of the education savings accounts, vouchers, school choice that he advocates, a clean bill for increasing state funding for public schools. And he would not commit to that. So when you hear that, what's your reaction?
I'm disappointed. Had districts like mine seen just a $1,000 increase to the basic allotment, there's data there that would have shown that we would not had to have closed 4 schools in my school district in Plano ISD. We would have seen a revenue of $30 million coming into our ISD.
Now we hear from Representative Brian Harrison, who says he's optimistic taxpayer education savings accounts will pass.
Yeah, I think there will be. I'm very optimistic about this, that Texas will finally, I wish Texas had been the first state to empower parents with education freedom. Sadly, we have been very slow to this. Over 33 states have already empowered their parents with some form of school choice. So it's long past time that Texas does the right thing and puts parents in control of where their kids attend school.
When I've spoken with Democrats about this, they still believe they have the votes to block it. What do you say to that?
Yeah, look, I think that anybody who would tell you that this is a fait accompli or this is a done deal would be wrong. Our work is still ahead of us.
Tell me about what it is that you prefer if you had a choice of designing a bill.
Yeah, let me be really clear about this. I want every parent to have education freedom because I believe every child deserves a quality education. And the best way to do that, Texas should make up for being late to school choice by being bold. I want us to have a truly universal education savings account program so that every family has the opportunity to make the choice for their kid. This would be good for parents. We know student outcomes improve when states that do this.
What about public school funding? I think everybody agrees that teachers deserve more money. So do you support?
Yeah, well, I agree. And I am the author of the most pro-teacher initiative in the history of the Texas legislature. I actually almost was able to pass an amendment last session to a public ed funding bill that would force the schools to prioritize teachers, because the people who are not prioritizing teachers right now, like I want to do, are the ISDs themselves. I had a pro-teacher initiative that would have forced the schools to dedicate at least half of their budgets to the classroom, to the teachers in terms of salary and benefits, so we can reward the teachers who are doing a great job educating the next generation.
Now to the fight at the state fair over its new gun-free zone policy. The Texas Attorney General sent the city of Dallas a letter last week threatening to sue over the new policy this year that won't allow people who have permits to carry concealed firearms to bring their guns into the fair. In a statement, AG Ken Paxton said the policy that infringes on license to carry holders' Second Amendment rights is unlawful. Dallas has 15 days to fix the issue. Otherwise, I will see them in court. The fair made the decision in part because there was a shooting there last year that injured 3 people. The only exceptions to its new rule are for active police officers and certain retired officers. Some 70 Republican state lawmakers sent and signed a letter to the State Fair's Board of Directors urging them to change the policy. Representative Harrison was one of them.
Even if the State Fair's intentions were pure, it's just a purely misguided policy. And so I very much hope they overturn it. Look, I'm proud to represent hundreds of thousands of Texans who believe in the Constitution, they believe in the Second Amendment, and they want their families to be protected. And the good news is those things go together hand in glove. And even if the State Fair's purported objective is to maximize safety, what they've done is to reduce safety.
But Representative Mihaela Plisa supports the State Fair's new policy.
When I see my colleagues sign on to a letter, condemning the State Fair of Texas for trying to keep their community safe after they saw, gun violence in Fair Park, that's crazy to me. And I think that that's why most people are ready for common sense gun legislation, making sure that people have to do a background check, that, we don't have a situation where 3 people were injured last year.
We reached out to the city of Dallas seeking comment, but we did not hear back. We're seeing more high-profile court cases being filed in North Texas. Sarah Jenkins has this week's brief.
Families of the victims in 2 Boeing crashes requested that a federal judge in North Texas reject the plea deal Boeing reached with the U.S. Justice Department. Last month, Boeing pleaded guilty in relation to the crashes that claimed 346 lives. Part of the plea deal includes spending at least $455 million to strengthen compliance and safety. The victims' families objected, claiming, among other things, that Boeing should face significantly larger and more meaningful financial penalties. Elon Musk filed a federal lawsuit in North Texas alleging that a group of prominent advertisers conspired to boycott, breaking antitrust laws. According to the lawsuit, the group decided to collectively withhold billions of dollars in advertising because they worried the platform had strayed from brand safety guidelines. Pro-Israel advocacy groups also filed a federal lawsuit in North Texas, challenging President Biden's order that imposed financial and immigration penalties on those involved in settler violence in the West Bank. The complaint opposes the 2-state solution in which 2 states are established, one for Jewish people and one for Palestinian people, and says the order violates free speech and religious freedom rights. According to the White House, the order aims to promote peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians alike.
Coming up, both the city of Dallas and Fort Worth released their proposed budgets for next year. We'll take a look and hear from Fort Worth Mayor Maddie Parker about the city's population and economic growth when Eye on Politics returns. 2 of our largest cities in North Texas, Dallas and Fort Worth, have proposed budgets for next year. First in Dallas, interim city manager Kimberly Beiser-Tolbert proposed a $1.9 billion general fund budget, which is up by more than $65 million from this year's budget. Some highlights include the largest single-year reduction in the property tax rate. It would lower that rate from 73.57 cents to 70.47 cents per $100 valuation. The proposal would also increase the property tax exemption for those 65 and older and the disabled from more than $139,000 to more than $153,000. And then in Fort Worth, City Manager David Cook has proposed a nearly $1.1 billion general fund budget for next year, up $49 million from this year's budget. Cook said in his proposal that the city's population could pass the 1 million mark next year. His budget would increase the property tax rate by ½ a cent from 67.25 cents to 67.73 cents per $100 valuation. We recently spoke with Mayor Maddie Parker about whether Fort Worth could surpass the cities of Austin and Jacksonville in population and a key element that would make that happen.
It's quality of life, period. And I think one great example I can give you is our plan is to be fully staffed with the 4th Police Department by fiscal year 2026. I don't think another U.S. city can say the same thing.
And what does that look like as far as number of officers, from where you are now to where?
Well, they're in the middle of their negotiations, so I'm sure Chief Noakes and our POA will have something to say about that. But you need to be fully staffed across the entire city. You also want to see NPOs where they need to be, your special departments, whether it's direct response or your crisis intervention team. All of these teams need to be working together, but it also comes from recruitment and retention. I don't have to tell you this, you do interviews across the state of Texas and really across the country, that recruiting and retaining officers has continued to be a really difficult issue, especially post-2020, post the murder of George Floyd. And in Fort Worth, I really think that we do an excellent job supporting the officers that we do have out on the street, making sure they have the equipment, they're paid well, and also have respect from community. And lastly, what does it look like to attract the next generation of police officers into the city of Fort Worth?
You touched on a little bit violent crime.
Yeah.
How has the city been addressing this? And there was just a very unfortunate incident on July 4th. 2 children were killed. So when you have headlines like this, and events like this, how does the city move forward and try to obviously prevent those if you can, and address the violent crime issue?
Well, it's heartbreaking, of course. The shooting that killed those 2 beautiful little girls was really attributed to domestic violence. And oftentimes half of our homicides in U.S. cities, that's oftentimes trended true in the city of Fort Worth, can be attributed to domestic partner violence. And we have no place for that in the city of Fort Worth. I'm incredibly proud of the partnership I've always had with One Safe Place and Safe Haven. My own family had experience with domestic violence. I do think you have to separate those issues from typical gun violence and homicide across the city of Fort Worth. But at the same time, those things hurt just the same. I was very proud of Chief Noakes, and he leads with his heart, even though he's in command of one of the country's largest police departments. He actually went to the funeral in East Texas to be with that family, because those murders of those two little girls reminds us our work is absolutely not done.
But your murder rate's gone down.
Absolutely, incredibly proud of that.
And don't forget, you can watch the full interviews on our website, cbsnewstexas.com. Go to the Eye on Politics icon, and happy scrolling. That's all for Eye on Politics this Sunday. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening at CBS News Texas. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again next week. And from all of us here, have a great weekend.